I'm Lorene Mills, and welcome to Report from Santa Fe. Longtime followers of the show know that Ernie Mills, my late husband and the progenitor of this program, was on the air for 47 years on radio, 35 years on television, and he got his information from little birdies. He would always say, "A little birdie told me." Well, we have finally tracked down that little birdie, and he and his wonderful owner are with us today to tell us a lot about Raptors and about what little birdies do have to tell us. Our guest today is Lori Paras and Wolfy. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, I want our audience to know, how can you take your eyes off Wolfy? Wolfy is a Harris hawk. Tell us about Wolfy, and then I'll tell people why we're here.
Okay. Wolfy, first of all, the Santa Fe Raptor Center is a nonprofit organization that takes care of birds of prey and songbirds that are native to the state of New Mexico that have been injured or orphaned, and our goal is to return them to the wild. There are birds like Wolfy that we cannot return to the wild, and they are suitable, their personalities are suitable, that's right. Their personalities are suitable to be educational. So she goes to schools and sees kids, and she is a teacher in her own way. So that's that's how we've gotten her through her inability to be released. She's called imprinted. Some children stole her out of a nest when she was a baby, and she thinks she's human, or she's very used to human beings, and so that's why she cannot go back out. And she's a Harris hawk, which is native to the state of New Mexico. It's native to the southern part of the state. She's a low desert dweller. And what makes her different than other hawks, or makes the Harris hawk different, is that they live in family groups, and they hunt in packs. They're called the wolves of the sky, and that's how she got her name, Wolfy.
And I like that you described that they usually will hunt in packs with a female at the front of a diamond shape.
In a diamond shape, two on the side and one in the back.
The wingmen are actually males.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably.
But
there's always a female at front.
I want to tell the story of how you and I met and how you helped me. In January this year, one of the coldest days of the year, a dear friend came by and said, "There's a falcon outside your gate." And I went out and looked, and there was this beautiful hawk. It was a red-tailed hawk, but he had a very damaged foot, and he was just freezing. It wasn't even 20 degrees for a high that day. And we found you, and we were able to take the hawk to you, and he was, as you told us, don't hold out a lot of hope for this bird. He's pretty far gone. He was so hungry, he was starved, that he had metabolized his pectoral muscles. He couldn't fly, he couldn't walk. But under your care at the Santa Fe Raptor Center, and we were happy to contribute $2 a day for a rat every day. But from January to May, we had the release. You healed him. You restored him to his wonderful hawk-like glory. And on May Day, we took him out to Galisteo Basin and released him, or her, she was a young female, into the sky, and she just soared. And I was so happy that I had found this injured animal and that I could find someone who was dedicated like you to help revive him. So that's how we've gotten to be friends. And as I see what you're doing, I just want people to understand that if they find an injured animal, well, you tell people what to do if they find a bird.
If you find a bird, we will have phone numbers to give you.
Uh-huh.
And you put it in a box and put it in, cover the box up and put it in a quiet, warm, dark place, because that would treat them for shock, and they're going to be in shock pretty much regardless because they're not used to human beings and being picked up. And if you find a raptor, I would suggest you use welding gloves and a towel to wrap around it. Their feet can be very, very formidable. And when people bring me birds and it's a raptor, I never ask how they picked it up.
Yeah.
Just leave well enough alone.
Yeah. Yeah, so you are outside of Santa Fe, and you take birds actually from all over the state.
Yes, birds come up from Las Cruces, birds come up. I've had birds from Roswell. I've had birds from all over.
And tell us who you have now, because we have some footage that we're going to... Are you, Wolfy, would you like to say anything, Wolfy? We have footage. We went out to the Raptor Center where you have these huge aviaries, 50 feet long by...
12 feet high.
Yeah, and that's where the ones that can fly are in the big one. You have a smaller aviary, too. And let's talk a little about, we'll show some footage of the two golden eagles that you have. First, let's talk a little about the lighter one, and you can say how you got it and what the treatment is and what her future holds.
Yes, I got two golden eagles, and the second one is a juvenile, so she has a lot more white on her feathers and on her tail. And she came from a rock quarry somewhere, an old mining quarry in somewhere outside of Las Cruces, and she was down. She was down so long that her feathers had been eaten by lice, by bird lice, so to speak, and she was very, very skinny, and so she is. With me, she's gaining weight, she's building weight. I've done some blood tests on her to make sure. The quarry in the area, the information I was given is that there's a lot of lead and mercury in the water, and the residents, the human residents of the area, cannot drink the water. So we did a blood test to make sure that she didn't somehow find a pool of water where, that may have leached up from the ground and saturated her. And her lead test was okay, and I've still haven't gotten the mercury test. I have to call them. And so if she doesn't have lead and mercury, there's a good chance she had an injury or an accident that does not show on her body, and we'll feed her and just see how she does. And of course, if she doesn't fly in a little, in the next couple of weeks, then you got to reassess and figure out what to do. But I'm hoping to release her in the fall.
And she's a golden eagle.
Yes, she's a golden eagle.
Tell us a little about the eagles that you find here in New Mexico.
The eagles that are residents of the state, so to speak, and of course they don't. They fly across border lines. They're in Arizona, but the ones that they do, Game and Fish does keep track of certain ones, breeding pairs, and the bald and the golden are what you find in the state of New Mexico. And
the difference is that the bald eagle will fish?
The bald eagle will fish.
And
golden eagles do not fish.
And their prey is?
Rabbits. They will take snakes, and so will bald. Bald eagles also will take rabbits and gophers, and
any small rodent.
Right.
Yeah.
But they also fish, and the golden eagle does not fish.
Yes.
They're not fishers.
So the second eagle that we have some footage of, we'll show you, is much darker. And tell us her history.
Yes, she's an adult, also a golden. And I'm assuming they are both females. You never know with a bird unless you do a DNA test, and there's no reason to do that. But the females are bigger in the raptor world, most of the females. So they're big girls, so I'm thinking they're girls. And she came first, also starved, also down in the Las Cruces area, and we did a lead. It's not unusual, and Dr. Kathleen Ramsey, who is my teacher and my mentor and whom I love dearly, has taught me that you pretty much lead test every eagle you get. There's a lot of lead shot in the state, and people will shoot a duck, and one pellet will get in that duck, and the duck will keep flying, and if an eagle catches it, then they're slowly building up the lead that's in their system. So she feels like it's a very good idea just to test each eagle to make sure that their what their lead level is. So she's low in lead, and she's another mystery. We don't really know what happened to her. Sometimes it's obvious. You have a broken wing, and you'll have a broken leg, and maybe it's healed, but you'll feel a lump there, which is called a callus, or you'll see a bruise. There's certain things that'll be obvious, and with both of these birds, has not been obvious what has happened. So,
but she does have a respiratory problem.
I'm sorry, she does have a respiratory. Yes, she does. There's nothing broken, and she has I put her in the large flight, and she couldn't fly. She couldn't fly very high, and she couldn't sustain flight. And then she was panting, and that's a sign of a fungus called aspergillosis. So we did test her for that. It said she had a moderate amount, and we're going to treat, and hopefully leach that, get that out of her system, so she can take off. And I'm also hoping to release her in the fall. The process can be 21 days to a month with the medication to get rid of the aspergillosis.
Well, you do work very closely with Game and Fish and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
I'm permitted through them, yes.
And how many permits, are there in the state of New Mexico for people to work with eagles?
3 that I know of, yes.
So you're one of 3.
I'm one of 3, yes. And I'm very honored. I'm very honored because I got the permit in 2007 for the golden eagle. And I don't think one's been handed out in a very long time. I do have to thank Kathleen Ramsey for helping me with that.
Well, I'd like to, if Wolfie's okay for a little while, we'll just continue because
she seems okay.
Yeah.
Keeping a wary eye on her.
Yes, and she's keeping a wary eye on us.
Yes. She might change her mind any minute.
Tell us how you ended up working with eagles and raptors.
I started in 1999 at the Wildlife Center, and I went there to start feeding. And, they were showing me around, and they have to, of course, go in the cage. It's not you just open the door and say, hi, bird. It's not like a kennel and a dog. It's a very different situation. The bird can fly out. The bird can jump on you. There's, all this stuff. So they're training you how to properly do this without losing the bird or getting hurt or panicking the bird, I guess, also. So I was waiting. I was waiting for this woman. It was the second time I'd been there to come, and she was going to work with me on feeding. And I was alone in the building, which is very unusual at the Wildlife Center. There's so much going on. And a woman put her head out of ICU and looked around and said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm waiting to feed." And she said, "Why is there no one else here?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm waiting for this woman that was supposed to teach me." She said, "Well, I shouldn't do this, but I need your help." So she pulls me into the intensive care unit, and she has a golden eagle that is ill, and she says, "I'm going to have you hold this bird, and I'm going to explain what you have to do, because they're very dangerous and they're very powerful, and you're going to do it, and you'll be fine." So I'm standing there waiting for her to hand me this bird, and I feel like I'm going to faint. And I'm not a fainter, and I'm certainly not, a thin little thing. So I'm sturdy. And I thought, what is going on? And as she's getting the bird out, she's explaining to me, what I'm going to do. And I'm feeling my heart starting to pound. And it was a very strange thing, because I can feel, how you feel the blood rush to your head, and you feel your heart pounding, and you hear it in your ears. I was at that place when she handed me that bird. And I'm holding the bird, and I'm trying to do the right thing. And my heart's beating so hard that I can hear it. And the bird's heart is pounding so hard that I can hear it. And this makes me cry. I don't know if it was a minute or 5 seconds or 30 seconds, but the heartbeat of the eagle and my heartbeat were exactly the same. I could not tell one from the other. And that second did something to me. And it literally felt like an energy blew out of the top of my head. It changed something forever. Nothing has been the same since. So I will be with these birds forever.
Yes. So do you feel that somehow this was your, I hate to use words like this, but this was your destiny to reconnect with this species, with this life form, that there was some connection
Something
there.
happened. I mean, that's all I can say, is something big happened that, was obviously very out of the ordinary. For me to even feel like I was going to faint and have my heart pounding. And I'm sure part of it was fear, but there was something else that took place at that point in time.
And it turns out later, on speaking with your mentor, tell us what she said, Dr. Ramsey.
I gave her the story at one point in time in the beginning of my working with her, and she was very busy. We were at an art fest, and she was moving little things around and, setting up the art fest, and I felt like she wasn't paying much attention, and I started to feel really stupid, but I thought, you're in the middle of the story, you have to finish it, right? So as I told her what I just told you, she set everything down, and she looked at me. She said, "It happened to you too?" And that was amazing. That was just amazing. And she said, "You will be with these birds forever. You will die doing this." And that was not a sentence I found negative. I was like, "Oh, good."
Oh, good. I'm
Yes,
with
exactly.
my people. Yeah.
I can do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's been now 10 years, maybe?
Yes, it's been a decade.
A decade.
That I have worked with wild animals and birds of prey specifically.
And so at the Raptor Center, you yourself give them the medicine, or you and your...
Yes.
And you...
Wrap wings, do it. I also have vets. I do see Dr. Kathleen Ramsey, who runs the Cottonwood Veterinary Clinic, and Dr. Brent Parker of the Santa Fe Animal Hospital also sees my birds.
But you have to do all the feeding.
Right.
And you have to get the meds and deliver them. You drive out. I mean, our release, I know that what your physical experience holding the eagle was something, but for us who had seen this hurt hawk from Agua Fria, from my house, to see it just explode out of that box and take to the sky. I mean, in a way, I won't be the same either.
Yes.
It's really an incredibly moving experience. I want to talk a little about owls, because you also have these wonderful family of great horned owls, and we have some footage of them with their wonderful, what do you call that movement they do with their heads?
Oh, when they're circling with their heads, it's called triangulation. It's a form of focusing.
So tell us about the owls that you have at the Raptor Center now.
This year we got a bumper crop of great horned owls, and we started out with one who was so small he could fit in the palm of my hand. And then I got a couple more, and they came in not all at once, and then I got 4, and then I got 1 more, and then I got 1 more, and I had 2 adults already, so I ended up with 8 babies. And the female fostered them, and they'd sit up on a branch, they'd climb up there and sit right next to her. It was lined up. It was very dear. It was very sweet.
And I know at that time you told me that these little baby owls eat as much as an adult.
They eat so much. They gain... What were they gaining? It was more than 20 grams a day, which is would be something like us gaining 5 to 7 pounds a day. Because raptors have to be ready to leave in the winter. Some migrate, some don't, but they have to be on their own and self-sufficient by winter. So if they're born in March, or if they're born in May, or if they're born in April, they've got to be up and running, hunting and independent before winter, by late fall. And so they grow very quickly. Everything happens very quickly.
Now, the ones that we did footage of from the Raptor Center are adolescents, and
Yes.
later in the year you will go out and release them. We hope that we have some footage of an owl release you did up by Ojo Caliente.
Yes,
So
hope that
explain
works.
the process.
From the minute you get them?
Yeah.
Well, if you take an orphan and they don't have any health problems, you're very lucky. That's always really nice. So you have to keep them warm when they're really small. An orphan raptor that falls on the ground can get pneumonia within 2 hours of just lying on the ground. And they're also, if they're lying down a certain way and they're getting cold, their chest will fill up with liquid. And then you can have a lot of problems. So it's the thing I do love about raptors, and I think I've mentioned this to you earlier, is the extremes with which they live in one body. They're very, very delicate and very, very powerful. And that switch can be switched so quickly. So you get them, you have to keep them warm. And there's a lot of things going on. Sometimes they're so small. Why are you shaking your head? Sometimes they're so small, they have to be inside for a while. And so I, as a rehabber, am worrying about imprinting them. It's this thing where you don't want to get, when I had a couple other younger birds earlier, and you don't want them outside when the weather's really cold or bad. And so you're trying to balance between putting them outside in the day with the female and bringing them back in if it's really cold at night. And and I did a good job, because the baby that I had nothing to do with me when he got bigger. But it's very important to me that while I'm taking care of them, they're getting enough liquid, they're getting enough food, they're warm enough, that they're also not getting used to me. And so that's the trick is, of course you want to hug them. They're so cute.
Yeah.
When they become teenagers, they're cute, but they're scary. So.
Well, how do you decide when it's time to release them and where to release them?
They go through the process. They start out as little babies, then they get to where they can perch and stay outside all day, then they get up on branches, then they start flying. Then when they're flying and they can get high up above your head, I move them to the large flight that's 12 feet high, and they can exercise in there. And when they've built up their muscle, can go back and forth easily, you buy live rats and you put them in there, and it's called kill training. And you put, the rats in there, and they chase the rats, and you do that for a couple of weeks until they have it down, and it's easy for them, and then they can go. And babies can pretty much go anywhere that's an acceptable territory for that species, because they don't have a territory. Sometimes an adult is different. Sometimes you want to put them back. If it's not a dangerous place, you want to put them back in their territory, because they might have a mate and because they're established there, so to speak.
Well, I know that the rail runner, obviously a bird-oriented vehicle, will somehow sometimes birds have to be shipped up to you from,
Yes.
say, Las Cruces. They drive the bird up to Las Cruces, and he rides on in a box.
Train from
and
Albuquerque, yes.
Yeah, right next
With
to the conductor.
Yes, which is, I'm so grateful that they do that. That's been a wonderful service.
And then when that bird is rehabilitated, then you try to take him back to Las Cruces?
It depends on the bird. There was an owl I had last year, an adult great horned owl, and the woman had him in her yard. She lived out, and she called up the woman who came and got him, another rehabber, and said, "There's another one that's bigger that is here every night hollering for that other one." So it was the mate, and it was a female, because I had the little guy. It took, was it 8 months to a year to get that bird back there? And the story that I got was they put that bird back, they released it, and it went up in the tree, and there she was. So it was like Romeo and Juliet of the owl world.
Yes. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a mate hollering for them, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the case of my hawk, I'm so possessive about my hawk. But it was, you told me, a young female, and she had no territory.
And I certainly wouldn't put her back in town. Yeah.
Oh, no,
because,
no, she was
they're
lucky.
I think she must have hit a car with that leg.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that was another thing that I learned from you. She had really damaged her leg, and you would ordinarily, you said, re-break it so it could heal. But
Right.
what happened to her leg?
She had been down so long, I'm guessing 2 weeks, with how skinny she was, that her leg had healed on its own, and it was crooked. And you could see in the x-ray the blood supply was crooked. It made a little curve shape. Mm-hmm. The foot was working, the nerves were working, the blood supply was working, so you leave well enough alone. And she will have no problem with that leg. She was, of course, when I watched her land, that's very important. She was grabbing fine with it. When we tried to catch her, she definitely wanted to grab me with it. So she could use it. So, but it was interesting to look at that. A human being would never, we would have a fit to have our leg that, heal that way. That would just be an atrocity. There'd be all kinds of surgery, but they don't know they can't fly or that it's not supposed to work, and they use it, and it does work.
Well, the vitality in raptors,
Yes,
that's what is
yes.
so, I mean, poets, religions, people, they're often an emblem of the soul. They're the emblem of our country,
Yes.
and
Well,
the
there you go.
power and the grace of these creatures is so impressive. So, if you could take a moment and tell us about the Raptor Center. I know you, is Wolfie okay?
She's doing really well.
Okay.
Making sure my arm is not asleep.
Yeah. You rescue, you rehabilitate, and release.
Yes.
And what do people need to know? First of all, I want them to know there's a website, www.thesantaferaptorcenter.org.
Yes.
And you can go there, wonderful pictures of the birds, and you can learn about what you do. But a lot of people want to do something if they see a down bird. I know you get lots of
Right.
ravens.
Yes. Yeah,
So-
I released 2 ravens last week.
Uh-huh.
2 juveniles that were.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so people should know that they can call your numbers. Let's give the number.
Oh, okay.
It's
The Santa Fe number is area code, of course, 505-699-0455. Please leave me a message.
yes, you do clear. You do check your messages, and
I do.
you got
Not
right
always
back
as
to
often
us.
as I say I'm supposed to, but just, persevere.
And what about, say, in Las Cruces or on the east side?
That would be the same number if you find a bird. We have a songbird person up in Los Alamos, and she's amazing. She can take a bird that is hatched out of an egg, a little bitty songbird that still has a yolk sac, attached to it, and keep it alive. I mean, it's laying there, like this little lump with no fur, no feathers or fur. And she's an amazing woman. She's done it for many years. Her number is 662-7418.
And what's her name?
Joe Ferdinand.
Okay.
Yeah, and she's great. And our educational person, Laura Schwartz, is up in Los Alamos, and she's done education for over 20 years. She can take a bird like this that's all wild and crazy, and the next time you see it, it's sitting very calmly on her fist. So we have the people that are the volunteers and that hold the Raptor Center together are people that have had a lot of experience, and I feel very grateful for that.
Do you think they've all had, some of them have had the similar experience with you where they bond
I don't
with
know.
this?
I didn't ask.
Yeah. Well, I remember
On some level, I would definitely say yes. The way they talk about birds, I would think that was the case.
we need to educate people not only by looking at the birds, but why is it this level of the food chain? Why are raptors important? I mean, we know why, but if somebody's just thinking eagle schmeagle,
Right.
what do they need to know? Why is this level on the food chain? Why is that so important?
Well, the first thing I think of is if you don't like rats and mice around your house, you really want owls and raptors around your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they do take care of, rodents breed so much quicker, and rabbits also. They breed like rabbits, so to speak, with lots of babies, and they only live 3 to 4 years. It's different than raptors, and so you have raptors. You're keeping things in balance, I guess would be the best way to
balance
put it.
of
And
nature.
rodents do carry. I know that rock squirrel carries not only the rock squirrel, but they carry the plague.
Yeah.
And the birds don't carry the plague. I mean,
Yeah.
but they can eat the animal that has the plague. So you're keeping down disease. You're keeping everything in balance.
Yeah.
If you have enough raptors, then then the rodents will be in balance, and the plague will be in balance. And you're going clear down to those little microscopic things that are involved.
But the raptors are threatened by man's encroaching into their
Yes, most
habitat.
definitely pushing them out.
And then I know that in some states, hunters actually.
It's unfortunate. We have had eagles that have been shot. I put
They
down.
are so protected, though.
Yes, I put down a Swainson's hawk last week that had been shot. The X-ray indicated pellets in the wing, and I don't understand the mindset. They don't get. I mean, the bird is so far away, especially an eagle. They fly so high that when you shoot it, you wouldn't have it for a prize. You wouldn't have a feather. It just goes down. So I don't understand that, and I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't have any patience for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know why people shoot them, but yes, it is not unusual that we would get a bird that is shot in this state.
How long do raptors live? How long does a hawk live?
It could be 9 years.
Uh-huh.
Some might be 12 years, 7. I'm going to say 7, 9, 12 years, something like that. Their lives are hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of unfortunately, the press that birds have gotten lately is with the disaster in the Gulf and those oiled birds. Everyone wants to help
Yes.
Can they recover from that kind of trauma? With being handled and toothbrushed and.
Yes, yes. I think that their resilience is amazing. I mean, I think that the thing I have to say about the birds that I have, even the eagles, is I feel like they don't ever forget who they are. They want to go back out. They're very present and they're very accepting. I mean, can I give you how I know that? I can't prove that.
Yes.
It's just a sense of having worked with them for so many years. There is an acceptance of who they are, of where they're at, of being with you, of what you're trying to do for them. But they really want to go back out. That's where they belong, and they want to go back out. And that's what they're hoping for.
Well, Henry David Thoreau had written a line once, "In wildness is the preservation of the world."
Yes.
And by doing what you do to preserve these species, you are helping, I feel, preserve the greater world for all of us.
Oh, thank you.
And so do you have a last thought for our audience about these wonderful creatures?
I wish we could somehow connect everyday people in their everyday lives, and all of us are very busy and running up and down the road with our cars, and everything's stopping at Starbucks and living the very fast-paced human cement under our feet life that we live. And I just wish there was a way to connect us more with it, because there is something magical about who they are, how they live, and the world they live in.
But part of your work with the Educational Bridge is
It's trying to bring that to people.
schools.
Absolutely, yes.
And
it
for a
is.
little kid to be this close
Yes.
to a raptor, I mean, it's fascinating. Absolutely,
It is fascinating. Yeah, because they don't fly down and I mean, as you saw, the red tail did not say goodbye.
No.
I haven't received a postcard either.
No, thank you notes. But it was so glorious to see him assume his rightful place in the universe.
Yeah. No, when I release something, it is really, really wonderful.
Yes. So I really appreciate you and Wolfie coming
She's
here.
been very good.
She's been very good. She knows how important it is for people to see her and to see how lovely she is. And I'm just really proud of you for your work. I want
Thank you. Thank you
people
very much.
to go to the website, the Santa Fe Raptor Center.org.
And you can donate. I'm butting in here. You can donate on the website. And feeding these guys is expensive, and there's medication.
The medication, even
a lot
for
of
that eagle, is
X-rays,
$100.
because sometimes you've got to do that to know what's going on with a bruise or a bump that might be a fracture, a hairline fracture. Or
Yeah.
something. So and you have to pay. And the vets, bless them, are really good about giving me discounts. And I work at the Santa Fe Animal Hospital with Dr. Parker, and he has been an angel as far as me bringing birds there and birds showing up out of the blue and discounts and all that stuff. I really appreciate
Yeah.
that. But you also have to pay them. So
Yes.
something. You have to
Well,
pay
I
for the
think
medication,
people
so.
feel it in their heart that they want to help these people and help the people. I mean, help the birds and help the people who are helping them. So our guest today is Lori Paras, and we have our star of the show, Wolfie. Thank you for joining us. And I'm Lorene Mills. I'd love to thank you, our audience, for being with us today on Report from Santa Fe. We'll see you next week.